Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7. I'm your humble host, Kevin Kietzman, following Pete Mundo on a fine Friday show with my mentor, Frank Bowl. He was my mentor in this business. Frank Bowl, I have known him since 1985. Wow, it's good to see Frank in here today. We remain dear friends to this day, and I was asking Pete, they were talking about Frank's podcast when Pete was on the podcast with Frank, and he said, I haven't been on. I said, well, I haven't been on. Frank, let's go. Come on, what are you doing? There's just something about Kansas City. My man Pudgy's got a great podcast. That is awesome. Great to see him in here today. We appreciate that. That was fun. We got a fun show lined up for you today. A lot of different topics, including in 30 minutes, we're going to address the NCAA's four commissioners, Big Four conference commissioners. Sat down with Brett Baer yesterday and basically laid out a game plan of what they want to have happen to fix college athletics. And I'll just tease it with this. It's the lazy, easy, lame way out and very typical of college athletics. We'll get into that coming up at 10:30. They want government help because everybody wants help from the government. Thank you very much. Donald Trump does things big and small. We've been focusing on the tariffs and all the things going on around that, and I'll have more news on that in just a couple of moments. But sometimes it's the little things that are really appealing about Donald Trump. And one of those things this week was the executive order on shower heads, on water flow, water usage. He is adamant that we have all the water we need in the United States. There is no drought. We have 3 record years in a row in the Sierra Nevada mountains of snowpack. They've got record water rolling off into the ocean that we're not capturing if we have places we need the water. We have all the water we need. Drought is not the problem. But it resonates with people that are like, I hate my shower head. I hate that it's regulated. A lot of people live in places that are regulated, that it is actually breaking the law for a plumber to come and adjust your shower head or put a different one on or take the thing out of it. That's against the law for them to do. There are places like that. He touches on things that matter. And I know that Pete and I disagreed on this one about daylight savings, but now he's tweeted out that he's going to ask Congress, presumably in the big, beautiful bill, to make daylight savings time permanent. We finally have the answer as to what Trump wants. He says it's more popular with people than rolling the clocks back. People like more daylight at the end of the day. Apparently, there's been a survey, and they've asked people. And while it's not the best for people with small kids, most people like and think of and write songs about and sing about and glamorize summertime and, daylight in some places until 10 o'clock and how romantic and Americana that is. He is pushing in the big, beautiful bill for Congress to make daylight savings time permanent. And if they do that, that means that this November, you will not be touching your clock again. It'll just be over. It's going to stay right where it is right now, and we'll have that forever. I love how there's nothing too small for this president. This is a guy who does really, really big things. Most presidents of our lifetime wouldn't touch the little things, like shower heads. They wouldn't touch daylight savings because they'd be seen as, well, what is this president doing? We have bigger affairs than this. Why is he dilly-dallying in this? You can't lay that criticism on Trump. You can't say, oh, he's worried about the little things and he's not focused on important things. You can't say that about the man. And that's what gives him the ability to do some of these little things. And I just know for a fact that there have been presidents that wouldn't touch little things in the past because they didn't want to be seen as a president that's trivial. They used to make fun of George W. Bush. They said he didn't go into the Oval Office until 9 o'clock every day. He slept too much. He was a little lazy. He wasn't a very hardworking president. I think that was them just picking on him, but he was sensitive to those things and tried to address them. Trump makes his own agenda every day on everything. And while earlier this week it was your shower head, today it's your wristwatch and not adjusting the time. And I just love that about him. There are big things going on. China has raised their tariff to 125% and said that's it. There's no reason to go any higher because essentially the flow is off. There's nothing now going from America to China. There wasn't much going from America to China to begin with. Okay, but now with 125% tariff, it's cut off. And we don't care. Unless we can get a free and fair and open market in China, what's the difference? We don't care. We're going to have to do without the things that are coming here because of the big tariff. We'll see if Trump raises it again. I suspect he won't want to sit there at 125 each. He'll have to one-up them, especially when they've said publicly we're not raising it again because there's no point. We've basically cut everything off. That's not the interesting China news. The interesting China news is they've been asking Australia to break off from the U.S. and join China against bullying by Donald Trump. And Australia has rejected that, emphatically rejected China's call to join hands. So what did China do? They moved on to the European Union. And he had a meeting with the Spanish president, Pedro Sanchez, and is asking Spain to begin an effort in Europe to put a coalition of countries together to join China against bullying from Trump. And I don't think it's going to work. So they're working the back channels trying to break apart what Trump has set up with these other countries. And we'll see. I just think these countries that have had relationships with the United States are not going to say, listen, U.S., we're going to do our own deal with China, and we're going to have this thing going on here. We know what you're up to. We're going to break off and join hands, and you are kind of a bully, and we're going to do. I don't see that happening with these countries. Outside of maybe Australia and Europe, most of the countries are too small and scared to do anything. So, and maybe there will be some in Asia, very near China, that say, listen, we need them as a trading partner a lot more than we need the United States. I'm sure there are some countries that's the case, and we'll see. But that's really the big story is we're seeing what China's doing now. They've absolutely said they're not going to raise it anymore. 125 is enough because we're taking nothing in from the United States now anyway, so there's no reason to raise it again. Is it Xi's way of saying this is it, this is my number, and maybe we should negotiate? We're not going to sit here every other day and raise tariffs on each other. It's over? Or does he want to try to get other countries on his side first? I don't know what's going to happen. We don't have clear guidance on what is next. We do have clear guidance on Trump doing big things. We've seen Doge. We've watched all of these different issues that he's tackled, safety, illegal immigration. And one came up today, and he's posting about this on his social media, that he's going to end federal spending on sanctuary cities and states very soon. And I guess I'm a little nutty. I just assumed he'd already done that. Why would that take this long? And if he's going to announce it's coming soon, why hasn't it been done already? What would hold that up? Is this legal? Does he need some sort of an act of Congress? Does it need to be in the big, beautiful bill? I don't know. You'd think that he would cut it off first and then go to court second. That's generally the way he does things. But I was under the impression that we'd taken a hardline stance with these people, but apparently not. And he says it's costing lives, that they value illegal aliens that are committing crimes being free in our country above the safety of American citizens, and the federal funding, he's going to cut all of it for municipalities and states that are receiving federal funding for such things in the very near future. So I'm pleased with that. I'm good with that. And he's having a water showdown at the same time, not just shower heads. He's now fighting Mexico over water. Rio Grande River has a treaty from 1944 between the United States and Mexico on how the water is to be used. And there's a certain amount of water that gets redirected into Texas for agricultural purposes. And Mexico is cheating on the treaty. And they won't stop. They're taking more water than they're supposed to, and we're not getting the water that we have under a treaty that we are supposed to get. This treaty's 81 years old, as you can tell. So Trump says he's going to cut off the water. They've asked for emergency water in Tijuana, Mexico. Now, how do we control the water in Tijuana, Mexico? We run around and we scream that we're under drought in the west. Lake Mead near Las Vegas is down. The Colorado River doesn't have as much water as it once did because we're using so much. The population has increased. And since 1972, without a treaty, we've just been giving water to Mexico out of that river. And Trump says, we have no treaty. We're not giving you this anymore. The Colorado River goes through the United States and into Mexico. If they want water in Tijuana from the Colorado River, they are 171 miles away. They can divert it. They can figure out how to get their own water in Mexico because the river that pours into the ocean, the Gulf of California, by the way, used to be called the Sea of Cortez. I must have missed this one. They call it the Gulf of California now. I don't know if Trump did that. I don't know what that is, but it's the Gulf of California, the old Sea of Cortez. The water from the Colorado River pours into there. It's the same amount rolling into the ocean as has always run into the ocean. That's part of the deal. That's part of damming it up and using the water. You restrict the flow to build the dam, but then when you set it, you release enough water to where it goes all the way down into Mexico. They have as much water as they've ever had in Mexico. And since 1972, we've been giving them our water just to be nice. In a big sprawling city like Tijuana that's 171 miles away from this river in Mexico. And Trump hasn't said this, but I'll tell him they should get their own damn water out of the Colorado River. We shouldn't be doing this for them. If we got people in San Diego and LA and Phoenix and places like that want more water, why are we giving it to Mexico? This is just awesome stuff. Everything that comes out of D.C. now is America first. It's our water. That's our snow melt. We didn't block the river. It still rolls into your country and rolls out to sea. Do with it what you want. It's the same amount of water as you had 500 years ago in Mexico, but there is no reason for us to be giving away free water in our desert Southwest to Tijuana, which isn't even near the Colorado River. It's 171 miles away in Mexico. They should figure this out themselves. And I love that Trump is in on all these things, big and small. So fun. All right, our phone lines are open. If you'd like to join me, I'd love to hear from you today. We're going to talk a little sports later on. I love the Masters. It was fun talking with Pete about our experiences at Augusta National. We can talk about anything that's on your mind, really. 913-408-7957. I'd ask this question today. We just talked about 7 or 8 things that Trump has done. Do you have a favorite? Is there a favorite issue or something that he's addressed so far that is your favorite? I'm going to guess nobody says tariffs at this point, but maybe in the end it will be. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
From Overland Park to Oak Grove, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us on this Friday. We hope you're going to have a great weekend. The weather looks pretty good. Royals are out on a 10-game road trip after taking 3 out of 4 from the Twins. You've been hearing John Anthony's updates on the Royals' goings-on. That's going to be interesting. We'll talk a little baseball later with Mark near the end of the show and probably sneak in a little golf and some other things coming up in just a little bit. The NCAA commissioners from the Big Four leagues are asking for something very specific from our federal government, and I'm just blown away that they've got the gall to do that. We'll talk about that in our next segment. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about Josh Hawley, who has kind of shifted the direction of the China discussion away from things that are more tangible for most of us. The fentanyl pouring in, the trade deficit, the unevenness, all the things that they do manipulating currency and things like that. We know they're a bad actor, and Hawley's trying very hard to keep our eye on the ball of what China's really doing that's bad, and that has to do with cybersecurity and some of the things they've done. He's talking a lot now in the interviews about cyber attacks, communications grids, power, digital infrastructure, and all the other nefarious things China does. And I think it's good that he's doing that. I don't know politically what a lot of that means to the average American. I think we generally think, well, our technology is really good and our government's really smart and everything's really great, so China really can't hurt us and nothing's been affected in my life over any of this. But it probably has, and we don't know in which ways. And if we've learned one thing from Doge, our federal government is not what most people thought it was. Like, the Democrats live on one basic policy. Government is the end-all, be-all solution to everything. That's what they believe. They believe government is great. They believe our government is the best. They think we do everything right. And boy, Doge has exposed that. It makes you wonder how they flew a spy balloon over North America and we didn't shoot it down until they hit the Atlantic. The things that China does to us are really quite incredible. And Josh Hawley is speaking out and wants people to recognize that and talk about that a little more than just the tariffs. He'll probably fail. He's just one voice in the Senate. But I do like Josh Hawley a lot. I like a lot of the things that he stands for, and I think he's a real deep thinker, and I love that. He does have something else that is in particularly on his mind, and that is the reaction from Democrats. On all of these things that are happening, they don't know how to react. His quote in the interview last night, "Libs are going crazy, and they are going nuts," unquote, because they know Trump is right. And I don't think we've heard a lot of people say that. Now, these are insiders, and maybe Republicans should say this more. They know the Democrat. He knows the Democrats in the Senate. House members know the Democrats in the House. And it's true. They don't know how to deal with this. We spent a lot of time on yesterday's show talking about how Democrats literally are rooting for China to win this negotiation. They want to be able to say Trump lost. They don't care if it's bad for America. They literally want China to win this because they hate Trump so much. But he's right. They're going crazy because they've all said in the past that we need to put tariffs on China. We need to be tougher with China. This is the one thing both parties agreed on. Like, we literally, other than a war that we'd be in, the one thing right now everyone in America agrees on until last week is America needs to be tough on China. We need to figure it out. We need to be tough. They're doing the wrong things. We got to be tough on China. Everybody that has ever been elected and gone to D.C. has said this at some point in their career. And then Trump does this, and now they're going crazy and they're saying it's terrible. He's wrecking the economy. He's costing you money. We're going to have a recession. Everybody's panicked. And Hawley's like, they're going crazy. They're going nuts. That's his exact quote, because they know he's right. And it puts them in a position where they just have to criticize him. I don't understand that. I have never, ever had a problem when a Democrat president does something that I like and I think it's right, acknowledging that and saying, I think that's right. I think that's the right thing. And boy, it used to happen a lot. The parties were closer together. They were both parties were more in the middle and less to the outside or extreme, whatever it is you want to call it. And there was more common ground. And it was easy to do. But they have so many years of bashing Trump, telling America that this is the end of our democracy. They've boxed themselves into a corner that they can't even support something they believe in. They're voting against it. We had a Democrat politician come out this week and say she was sorry that she voted for the Laken Riley Act. You know Laken Riley, the young lady that was killed by the illegal alien in Georgia while she was out for a jog in Athens, off campus. You remember that story. And she voted for the Lake and Riley Act. This was an easy one. You vote for something like that. And now she's saying she regrets it. Doesn't really give a reason why she regrets it. I'm guessing she regrets it because it was a win for Trump and the Republicans. You can't do things that way. For a party of government like the Democrat Party, for a party of government, they sure disrespect the government and the process of it. They really bastardize it. And when you are in a situation where you see something that you've believed in the past and it's taking place and you believe it's good for America and you're trashing it because you don't like the guy that's going to get credit for it, you need to look in the mirror. You need to find stronger leaders than Joe Biden or Barack Obama. Either one of them could have done this. Either one of them. They had 12 years in the White House. Either one of them could have taken on China, done tariffs, a trade war, anything. They could have done it. They didn't. Why didn't they? Well, Joe Biden was sending his son over there to get rich. They flew together on Air Force Two to China. Together. It was just right out there in the open. We're going to China, the Bidens, father and son, and we're going to make money. Yeah, they're involved in that. And at the same time, they were saying we need to be tough with China, but they never did it. They do believe that it's true. They believe it would be good for America to be tough on China. They just can't stand the thought of crediting Donald Trump on any of these things. It's quite amazing. Truly amazing. We also got word here in the last 24 hours, the drug maker Novartis, you heard of Novartis, the big drug maker? $23 billion they're investing in America. They're going to build 7 facilities in the United States because of tariffs on pharmaceuticals that are made overseas. This is another big deal. When COVID hit, we were relying on everything from overseas. The one that got all the headlines were the computer chips. We know that. Remember, they were making cars without computer chips in them? And they would sit and wait for a chip, or that you go buy a new car and in 6 months when we get some chips, we'll put it in your car. So that was a big one, but there were other things. And the scary one is medicine. Why would we be relying on China and places like that to make drugs for us? Novartis is building 7 facilities in the United States to avoid tariffs. This is working. We'll see how the tariffs play out. I don't have a crystal ball, not an expert. Boy, I'm looking at a lot of things that Trump's doing with these tariffs or the threat of these tariffs that's leading to business in America. Good things happening here. And we should be watching Novartis making our drugs for us in the United States. That should happen here. We should be watching over the entire supply chain and everything that goes on. More and more winning. When we return, we're going to talk a little college athletics. The commissioners from the Big Four Conference want government help because, of course, they do. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
From Gardner to Grain Valley, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Welcome back to the show. Still ahead, we're going to talk about the NCAA asking for a government bailout, and Mark is going to make his picks for the weekend. Mark Van Parlay will be with us. We'll talk a little Royals, little Masters, and he's watching the cut line. You're watching the cut line because you have what for a wager? You have John Rahm. You need to make the cut?
Yeah, Rahm needs to make the cut. I have 7 other guys ahead of him that are doing just fine right now, but Rahm is the only one below the cut line.
So your bet was 8 certain golfers all make the cut?
Yeah.
And you need Rahm.
Yeah, and it was plus 650.
I've been trying to figure out for an hour why Mark is so fixated on the cut line. I'm like, what the cut line? Oh, it's John Rahm. There you go. First, we go to the phones and we say hello to David. Good morning, David. You're on Uncanceled. How are you today?
Hey, Kevin. How are you, bud? Hey,
Fine, sir. Thank you.
This goes a long way back. I'm glad to hear you on the radio again. About 18 years ago, I met you and your wife with me and my daughter at Arthur Bryan's over by Nebraska Furniture Mart.
Okay.
And she was just about 1 year old.
All right.
And we talked quite a bit. And she's now 18 years old, and she's at Mizzou. So
That's awesome.
Time has really gone by fast. So
What is she
But hey,
studying?
it's good to
What's
hear
she
you on the
studying in
radio.
college?
She's going to go into criminal psychology.
Nice. Nice.
So,
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, I'm on the Trump wagon. I think that we are going to feel a little bit of pain, but my goodness, he's running the country like a business instead of like a political arena. And that's what it's been running like for many, many years. That's why our country's broke. We are going to feel the pain for a while, and I will accept that pain. I do know he's doing the right thing. I'm shocked on the other side, the smart friends that I have that are not seeing this as well. I'm just dumbfounded by this. But I think things are coming good, and I hope to get that $5,000 check in the mail soon.
Well, I heard it might be up to 9,000. You're talking about all the money Doge has saved?
I'll take 9. I'll take 5. I got a lot of medical bills to pay off, so whatever it is, I'll do it. So,
Oh,
but
okay.
hey, I'm glad to hear you back on the radio. You have a great day.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much for listening all these years. And congratulations to your daughter going to Ole Mizzou and getting into criminal psychology. Oh, that's awesome. What a field. What a field. Good stuff right there. I'm not so sure about all the pain. Where he says there's going to be all this pain. I'm not, maybe, but I don't really, I'll deal with it when it comes, you know? I don't think we should be fixated on that. And I don't think we should be conditioning people to be gloomy and think bad things are coming. As I've said, you can always go back to the old policies. If what you're doing now is causing pain, you can always go back. And maybe that's part of this Trump move this week was part of that. People were like, uh-oh, stock market's in the tank. We got to stop the bleeding here and do a pause. But it looks, at least on the surface to me, that these other countries are in lockstep with us, that they're okay, that they're going to negotiate and get a deal, and they're going to be fine, and they want to be on our side and not China's. And if it's everybody against China, I don't know about the pain. If we're worried about cheap T-shirts or cheap Nikes or whatever coming out of China, can't they just make them in Cambodia or Vietnam? There's other countries right by there that are very, very inexpensive to make products. Bangladesh is the number 2 place in the world for garments being made, clothes. There's all kinds of places that you can have these things made, if not China. And it would be maybe a slight increase in what the price is, but certainly a lot of those things would be cheaper than making them here. Not every industry is coming to America. We're not going to make everything here. We're still going to be importing, even after there's tariffs. And I think there's going to be some places where the tariffs are actually quite low because there's going to be products that we won't be able to make that cheaply and need to keep coming into this country very cheaply. And maybe it's things like socks and T-shirts and things like that. So I asked on yesterday's show what in the world the 4 conference commissioners were doing going on Brett Baer's show on Fox News. They all sat down with Brett Baer, and I thought, well, maybe they're announcing a plan that they've got figured out. That is not what they did. They went in front of Brett Baer because they were all in D.C. lobbying Congress for the easy way out of the disaster that is college athletics. Every single person I know thinks college athletics, by and large, is ruined, that it has changed, that it is not what it was before. There's nobody that likes what's going on in college. While we respect the right to the athletes, for the athletes to make what they can on their own, with name, image, and likeness, and know that's the law of the land and capitalism rules, all of that, it is insane that the NCAA and these colleges have not bonded together, formed an organization that has rules and says, here's the rules of our business. Do you want to work here or not? Now, I argued for years that they don't have to pay NIL. If they'd been tough to begin with, they wouldn't have to pay these players. They could have said, listen, you're coming here to play college ball. We're going to give you the opportunity to be on television, which is basically like a job interview for the craft that you've chosen and you're good at. We're going to give you roughly $300,000 in education and goodies and trips and travel and housing and food. And, oh, you're the 1%er on campus and you have all the girls and the girls have all the guys and you're just a celebrity. And it's a pretty good gig. It was a good gig before the money. It's a great gig now. Unfortunately, many 18-year-olds are just going wild with their newfound riches. And a lot of coaches are arguing that the players are uncoachable. They can't discipline them. They cannot threaten them with playing time, which is the greatest motivator on earth for any coach in sports. I will bench you. Well, Major League ball players know they can't be benched when they have a guaranteed contract. Chiefs players know they can't be benched if they're making money. You know, you may not get as many plays, but you're going to play. Once you sign your contract, same thing in college. You become the guy that we're paying money to. The classic example was the guy at K-State this year. They paid all that money to him, came in from Illinois. Well, you can't bench him. He was playing crappy most of the year. I mean, really bad basketball most of the year. You can't threaten his playing time. You've paid him the money. He's got to play. He'll come out of his funk. Well, he wasn't motivated. He was rich. He had a fancy car. He was big man on campus, and he just went out and laid a stinker all year long. And there's college guys doing that all over the place. So they have not handled this well. They tell Brett Baer, we want Congress to act. They want Congress. They want the federal government to regulate college athletics. And here's a quote from Brett Yarmark, the commissioner of the Big 12. Quote, it's becoming clear the situation is getting out of control. He said bluntly, we need help from Congress. From where I sit today, federal preemption, having a standardized platform that oversees and governs NIL is critically important, Yarmark said. There are 34 states that see it differently with their own laws, and it's relatively unruly. So states have passed their laws. It's the way Missouri's done this, the way they deal with NIL and what players can have, what their rights are. And I guess the only argument for the feds to get involved is this. We have a national organization. Different states do it differently. We have one school in one state that has this set of rules, another school in this state that has this set of rules, and we've got all kinds of problems with the state, and this needs to be federalized. I don't think much needs to be federalized. What I don't understand is why the government has any interference in this at all. The hard thing to do, but the right thing to do, is for these four commissioners to get together and figure it out with university presidents what the next iteration of college athletics is. Maybe it's only 75 big schools. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's 100. Maybe it's 120. Whatever the number is, whatever they decide it is. They have a charter. They start a business. They incorporate. What they're offering the players right now is 22% of all revenue in a salary cap, which is $20.5 million a year for your athletic department to pay to athletes. That's a lot. Now, the NFL gets 50%. The players get 50%. So 22%, I think, could be negotiated up if the players unionize, which they haven't done yet. And if they do, it's just a classic business model. You have a corporation, an athletics corporation, that has these schools as our franchises. Think of it like McDonald's. You're McDonald's, then you have all these franchises. All the franchises around America or around the world for McDonald's are owned by different people. They're franchisees. That's your schools. And then you have an agreement. We have these rules. We're a corporation. And we answer to our shareholders, who are the fans. I don't understand what's so hard about this. They're concerned about antitrust lawsuits or smaller schools filing lawsuits saying you took off and left us, but they've taken off and left them anywhere. NAIA schools technically are colleges, and they have athletes, but they're not paying money to them. There's just a cutoff line somewhere. I don't understand why they don't just form their own organization, why they need Congress, why they want the states or anybody to be involved at all. Form a corporation and be done with it. Call it something other than the NCAA. What I fear is going to happen is football is going to branch off, that they're going to branch off and be their own entity. And that's that. And what that means for the rest of the athletic departments of these schools, I have no idea, but it won't be good. If football branches off and becomes its own business, its own entity, and there have been all kinds of reports that the Saudis want to be involved in this, the NFL may want to be involved in this, that if you took 64 schools and said, we're going to have our own college football league, it's a feeder league for the NFL would invest billions of dollars, the Saudis would invest billions of dollars, each school would just be flooded with cash initially, like an initial public offering, and form a football business that would actually likely be bigger than the NFL. And the NFL's eyeing that, saying, hey, if they go do this, we don't want a football league, a mega league, that has more TV dollars, more revenue, and more fans in the seats than the NFL. They want to be partnered in that. Do it. Do it, but make it the entire athletic department. Don't just branch off one sport because it's going to leave everything else in the dust. But they're asking Congress to come up with some sort of a law or negotiate this thing out. I don't think they're talking about the big, beautiful bill for colleges, but they want them to help, and they're desperate, and they sound like desperate men. And in this interview, they sounded desperate with their comments. You hear Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, saying to have a college World Series, to have a college football playoff, to have any national championships, you have to have national standards. That's why we need the federal government to do this. What national standards do corporations have? There's laws that they have to follow. Why can't you be a big corporation? Why can't you run as a business and follow the rules of business in America like everyone else? I mean, there's too many. You can't even count the thousands and thousands of businesses, corporations in America that have operations in all 50 states. And if that's the issue, that you're competing in 50 states and you can't figure it out, when thousands of corporations in this country already do that, I can't help you. I just don't think government's always the answer. And if they're asking Congress to fix it, you're probably asking the wrong people. It will probably be a dud if Congress gets heavily involved in this. 913-408-7957. If you'd like to join us on Uncanceled, we're going to check in with Mark, get some thoughts and predictions for some sporting events coming up and some other tasty topics next on 95.7 FM.
Call Kevin Kietzman, 913-408-7957. Now on 95.7 FM.
Welcome back to Uncanceled. We'll check in with Mark in a couple of moments. We will go to the phones. We've got a former college athlete on the line that wants to comment on the NCAA asking for government help. Hello, Mike in Kansas City, Kansas. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Kevin. I've been listening to you, and regarding these colleges, my opinion is college sports is the last bastion of a truly merit-based culture, and the left can't stand it.
There's some of that. It's really all of sports. Sports is merit-based, clearly.
It is. Everyone on those teams are there for that reason. It's merit. They have the ability to do the sport. That's why they're there.
Right.
And I believe that group, I would refer to it as the Camelot of merit-based culture, which means a group or a time when people come together with hope and confidence that they can achieve something great. That is national championships, whatever.
That's a beautiful description of sport. That is the core. That is the basic principle of sport. That's a beautiful way to describe it, yes.
That's what I recall from the days in it, and that's problem is boosters are providing the money, and they may turn into oligarchs.
Yeah.
That's my concern.
Well
there
said.
Might be something besides merit.
It's clearly forever changed. The effort we're seeing with many players is not the same as it once was. You just can't make 18 and 19-year-olds rich and expect them to play as hard as when they were threatened with playing time. And by the way, they're free agents. They can just leave anytime they want and go somewhere else. If they don't like their coach, these coaches are having a hard time coaching. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the call. Excellent insight there. They can't coach the kids. If you coach them hard, if you get on them, you make them run too much and throw up in a bucket like they used to, they'll transfer somewhere else. They just leave and go find a player's coach somewhere. That's what it's all about. It's sad. It's a sad day for college athletics. They clearly have to do something because nobody likes the way it is. Nobody. I mean, nobody. I don't even think the players like it. They like the money, but they don't like bouncing around to 6 schools in their career and all that. None of them said, oh, it's great. It was fun. I was at 6 different schools in 5 years. No, that's not it. Mark, did you see the Timberwolf is closed this year at Worlds of Fun?
Oh, no, I did not see that.
They've closed the Timberwolf, and they're not saying why, but they are teasing an announcement down the road. So it must not be all bad. They didn't dismantle it this offseason. Apparently it's still there. I don't have an answer to what this is, but I'm very curious. Do you have a thought as to what they might be doing with the Timberwolf? It's closed for the year.
Maybe some upgrades. I know in the past they've made it so it's not as bumpy. It used to be that roller coaster that just rocked you the whole entire ride. So
couldn't they have done that this winter? And wouldn't they say, hey, we're refurbishing it?
Yeah,
they're not saying anything.
I know they updated, I think they painted the Mamba. They did some other like cosmetic stuff. So I don't know why they couldn't do that with the Timberwolf.
Have you ridden the new Zambezi Zinger?
I tried last year and it closed down when I was about 10 minutes away from the front of the line. So yeah.
Why did that happen? You know?
I'm not sure. They didn't disclose it.
Mechanical.
Yeah, they're walking up there.
Did you know the old one is somewhere in, I think, Argentina?
Yeah, South America.
Yeah, South America.
I've seen that article. It floats around usually right around the start of like when Worlds of Fun opens, that article pops up.
That's fantastic. That's so good. All right, we've been watching the Masters. Bryson DeChambeau's making a move today. He's Captain America as far as I'm concerned. There's another golfer they call that, but Bryson's my guy. He's all Team MAGA. And he's 3 under today through 5 holes, and he's 2 off the lead. He's making a move. He's 6 under par. Justin Rose from England is your first-round leader. He's 1 under today. He's moved to -8. What say you, Mark Van Parlay? Who's going to win this thing this weekend?
I know you don't like it, but I'm still in on Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler's my guy. I just think that, if he can make his putts a little bit better today, and I know he did great yesterday, but if he can continue getting those birdies, maybe even get an eagle out there today, he'll be sitting at the top again going into the weekend.
The question should be asked other than Scotty Scheffler, who could win this thing. It's probably the way we should ask it because we're not in disagreement. It's not that I don't like it. Scheffler's been winning so much. I'd rather somebody else win. He's a great champion. He's a great guy. There's nothing to dislike about Scotty Scheffler. He, like Donald Trump, got more famous and likable with his mugshot photo last year at the PGA Championship where he was illegally detained and is not pursuing any legal action against the Louisville police, which is pretty cool. So he's terrific. There's nothing to not like about Scotty Scheffler. I just want somebody. I want DeChambeau to win. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Ludwig Oberg, who is really a clone of Patrick Mahomes in a way. They both are Texas Tech, and they've become
right.
friends, and he's all Adidas'd up. So I think Mahomes worked that deal out. He's all Adidas. And like Patrick Mahomes, Ludwig Oberg is with his college girlfriend, who was also an athlete. Her name is last name is Peel. Is it Natalie Peel? I think her mom was an athlete too. She was a tennis player at Texas Tech, and they're a thing, and will probably wind up married. It's just
cool.
like the Mahomes story.
I like that. And both of those picks, by the way, if Scheffler doesn't win it, I think one of those two are going to win
One
it.
of those two.
Yeah.
Oberg's got, a lot of people don't know him. He just looks different than other golfers. There's a demeanor, and it looks so easy for this young guy. He's only been out there a little over a year on the tour as a professional golfer, but man, he is easy to watch play golf.
And he played really well last year at the Masters.
He did. Of course, sets up perfect. He's just hitting the middle of the fairway every time. It just looks so simple. Like when Scotty Scheffler gets it going great, it still doesn't look that easy because his feet fly all over the place. He's got this unorthodox swing and everything else. This Oberg, I mean, if you were going to have a AI take a computer animation of like the perfect golf swing and demeanor for a golfer, he's it. He's like 6'5". He's a big strapping athlete. He pounds the ball. He's really, 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 really good. The Royals sometimes are hard to watch, and they were hard to watch for quite some time yesterday until they came from behind and beat the Twins and won 3 out of 4. We'll take it. Where do you think this offense is going, Mark? You follow the Royals very closely because I am scared to death that there's just not enough offense there.
Yeah, I like the top of the order, the first 4. And then after that, it's just like Garcia played pretty well to start the season, but I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that up. So, yeah, I really like Jack Caglione.
Yeah, who's not here. He's in
not
Arkansas.
Here. He's been hitting the cover off the ball. I keep seeing his highlights.
I
So
think
maybe by the end of the year, he'll come up.
I think it's probably time to promote him at least to AAA
Yeah.
in another week or two. He's too good for AA. We've learned that, right? Did somebody say there was an exit velocity on one of his hits the other day? It was 121 miles an hour. Is that possible?
Yeah, they said that it would have been a top 5 hit in MLB history.
I mean, you've really ripped it when you hit 110, right?
Mm-hmm.
121? Jack Caglione went 468 feet?
Crazy.
Let's get him up here, man. And goodbye, Hunter Renfroe. All right, enough.
Agreed.
Let's move on. Have a great weekend, everybody. Really appreciate you listening to Uncanceled. Hope your weekend is a great one. The Vince Show is coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio.